All right, let's install the Kicker Hideaway 10-inch. As you can see, mine is already installed, and I put it in a direction that most people don't have it, and I got it to fit with a little bit of trimming, and I'll show you why and how, and I will try to go step by step through the install, even though I'm not going to be taking it out. And I got just about all the tools here that you will need and or want. You don't have to have all of these, just a few of them to actually get the job done, but some of them are a little handy. A drill, deep socket set, some wire cutters, crimp tool if needed, tap in like splice connections, solder iron, and some solder. And I got a heat gun as well. I'm gonna throw in a photo of and a link of something that I wish I would have had to get through the dash. I'll show you that later. All right, since I have already installed the speaker, I can't go through exactly how I did the wire connections. However, I will do my best to show you with a different type of wire. So you may or may not need cutters, I'm not sure, but at some point I believe the module that plugs into the sub has to be connected to the actual wires themselves. So we will attempt that here. In case you're wondering, this is not even speaker wire, but we're going to do our best. All right, so again, I don't recall if the wire needed to be trimmed or not, exposed, but you'll want to expose the wire like so. I believe you will on the end connections that go to the battery, the ground, and probably wire to wire, I would assume. So let's just pretend this is what we're doing here. And you got a couple of options. You can use some pieces like these. They make lots of connectors. I don't recall if it actually came with any. These are some little connectors you can use. You'll essentially put one side in, the other side in, and crimp it down. I didn't use a crimper, so that's not necessarily the way that I went. I soldered it, but once that's in, you crimp it, crunch, and then ideally, you don't have to, but ideally you'd use some heat gun or something and heat the edges so it actually shrinks down, or just cover it with wire, shrink ahead of time, and shrink that down so it's a good connection. You'll want to somewhat pull on the wires and they should not come apart. A good connection, they're not going to come apart. If you were going to solder them, I would put some heat shrink on first. Obviously, you'll have to know how to solder and have a soldering gun. You'll solder that on, throw the heat shrink over. Again, heating gun, perfect. Shrink that up, you're good to go. That's how you'll connect the wires. I don't have the little plugs that go to the battery, so we'll just simulate with this, assuming this is going to be a larger round circle that will go over the battery terminal or the module that I showed, or will go over the grounding bolt. So you're going to thread that through, crimp it on, heat shrink it, or you would have it open metal, use a soldering gun, solder that up, heat shrink it if you have it, then you're good to go. That's how you're going to have your end connections. To splice into your speaker wire, you're going to have something like this, and your existing speaker wire, assuming this is what's in your door already or in the bundle that's going into your door, you're going to wrap, get the right size, wrap that right into the middle and punch that through. Squeeze it, and a metal piece is going to basically slice into that and make the connection. Then you would use a little piece like this that's going to come with it. Again, crimp or solder it on, and that is going to slide right over, and that will be your new connection. as you slice in or tap into the wire that already exists. I believe that's the easiest way. Experts would probably say, don't do that, do it a better way. I'm not an expert, so I don't know what to tell you. That's just how I did it, and it works fine. I'm going to use the drill and an 8mm socket. All right, to get to these deep ones in the corner, you'll need this deep socket, and you'll need a 10. Hopefully you haven't lost it. Then you'll just lift the plastic up and out. Now, I actually cut into the carpet as well. As you can see here, cut down just straight across and then up about 1.5 to 2 inches. Put a little piece of foam underneath to level it out. And that way I can jam the speaker box that direction when needed. That allows it to fit under the seat in this direction, giving me more room here for any tools or anything I want to carry. You can also lay it this direction and you won't have that issue. Once you have the plastic out, you're going to want to remove the trim. You'll do that by just pulling straight up. Hear it pop and out. You can see my wire is ran under the carpet and it comes out right here. So pull that carpet back and there are the wires. I'm going to run those under the channel here and through that channel as best as possible. You're going to do that with all of the cables except the power cable. The power cable should run outside of the channel, obviously being careful not to pinch it anywhere. The instructions say don't run it with the other wires. You'll want to get your floor mat up and out of the way. Once you get the floor mat out of the way, you're going to take the trim and take it out just like the back. I'm just going to pull it up. It'll pop. And this is all one piece here, so this is going to come straight back. Feels like you want to move it one direction or another, but you don't. You just want to pull it straight back, and it'll pop out. Then you'll continue to feed the wires all the way through. As you can see, I've got my wires here, ran through. Feed them through the channel if you can. This second bundle here will house your speaker cables. And as you can see, I'm already tapped in. You'll have to undo some of this tape, so cut it a little bit. Be careful, obviously. Use the wire taps or splice in however you want into the cable. And it's hard to see, but the cable is slightly different than the other cables. You'll notice a blue and gray on this one, whereas all the other cables are going to be a solid color. The blue and gray spiral is the speaker wire running to the driver door. And then you will run your power cable, that red one there, up through the, I don't know, gasket, I suppose, to the engine bay. You will run the black cable to the remote, wherever you want to install it. In my case, I installed it right at the bottom of the dash. You'll drill 2 small holes to screw in your remote. When you push your power wire through that gasket, using the tool, hopefully, you'll want to run it up along the way up to this channel here, and you'll want to pop all of these off all the way down. Pop each one off. This will lift. You'll just run your wire straight through and back out here. You want to make sure your battery is disconnected at this point before you connect into this module here. Push this tab up. This back part should slide up. Slide that whole thing out. And there you go. I've run my wire right through there. And you will solder that piece on or crimp it on to the connector that goes onto the bolt. Then I've covered my wires in the engine bay with this sheathing. Ran the ground cable. It's not very long. but ran it to this underneath the plastic and connected it to that as it is connected to the frame. Once everything is plugged in, you can connect your battery back up and start it up. All right, from here you're going to want to go into Home, Settings, Vehicle, Audio Settings, Sound, and you're going to want to set this however you want it before you start messing with the subwoofer. Put your bass to the middle. Set these however you want. You can see how I have mine. It's how I like it. I have the Bose system. But you don't want any bass, so keep that in the middle. Then you will set up the knobs on the sub exactly as I show. You're not going to want to ever change this later. Once your sub is set up, do not come in and change this, or you could damage the sub. At this point you can turn up the volume probably to about halfway and then start turning up the bass remote to whatever you like. Then you're going to replace the trim same way you took it out. Nice and careful so you don't scratch anything. Kind of tuck it under like that. Align those tabs right in the back and push forward so they snap in. You can take the trim, start to get that in the right place, tuck it underneath, and start to push it down so it all fits back in place. And just take the trim and pull it around. Same thing with the back. Once you are happy with the way everything is, you should just push straight down. There's that beautiful GM build right there. Got a little bit of a gap. No big deal. Pull that under. Good to go. All right, now carefully put the plastic back in place. And again, you'll use the 8 and the 10 to get all of these back in place.